This is Killamery in County Kilkenny, but very much at the border to County Tipperary, with its lovely high cross, which is a national monument, like every high cross in Ireland is a national monument. But what I want to show you is just behind the high cross, just lying on the ground. And it is these two Bullaun stones. Now, Bullaun stones can be naturally occurring, or they can be human-made. Naturally occurring, just developed through erosion, water, ice, whatever. And when they're human-made, they can be the basis of crosses, which these might be. I don't know, because the diameter is wide enough to hold a cross. They can be former quernstones, or they can be spot stones which held a door at some point. This one goes all the way through. The other one doesn't, and the other one, the second on the left, was falsely identified by Canon Kerrigan as a baptismal font. I don't know how he got that idea. It is possible that people used it as that at some point, but it wasn't made as a baptismal font. What you often find is that they're near holy wells like this one. This is St. Nicholas's Wells just down there. And sometimes they're holy wells in themselves, usually associated with the cure of warts. I think that's probably because they're kind of the reverse shape of a wart. And there's a type of magic, it's called sympathetic magic, where something like looks similar to what you're trying to cure or what you're trying to do will cure or heal or affect whatever. Like walnuts are usually considered to help with brain issues because the shape of the walnut is like a brain. So warts are the opposite shape of a Bullaun stone. And the word Bullaun comes from the Irish, and it means bowl because they're often bowl-shaped, but not always. Sometimes, especially when they're naturally occurring, they can be oblong in shape, and then they're often associated with a saint. There's a lot of Bullaun stones that are associated with St. Patrick, of course, either where he knelt down and then it has vaguely the shape of his knee. Maybe you've seen the video I shot on Patrick's Day this year about the Bullaun stone along the Kells Road, where he allegedly knelt down and left an imprint with his knee. And that happens quite a lot, or happened quite a lot. Or sometimes he fell off his horse and whatever body part hit the stone left an imprint in the stone. And it doesn't necessarily have to be St. Patrick, it can be St. Bridget as well. She knelt down a lot as well for praying and left imprints, and sometimes she also left imprints of her fingers. There's one in Killamery near Kells in County Kilkenny, which is called Glún Bride, because she knelt there, Glún being the Irish for knee, and there's also Glún Foric a lot. But it doesn't necessarily have to be the knee, it can be finger imprints, but it's not, it's naturally occurring. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a saint. We have similar beliefs in Germany. I remember a story from my hometown, or near my hometown, where I think it was a giant was being chased by the devil or some enemy. I can't remember. But he had to jump. He was on horseback and he had to jump over a ravine. And he just about made it. And where the hoof of the horse met the ravine on the other side, the rock, it left an imprint, and that is still considered, the imprint of the horse. If I tell you the name of the place, it doesn't mean anything to you because it's in German, but that's one of the stories I remember. And they might have been, because it's very Lutheran area, they might have been saint stories before and they were changed to less Catholic things or people, or they might all go back to giants and other mythical people. And then when Catholicism came in, they put all the saint stories on it. I don't know. That's leading too far. But we can map these Bullaun stones, and I will show you how we can do that using these two in Killamery. As usual, let's have a look at the tagging scheme first. I'm fairly sure that I came up with it. Yes. And there are only 29 so far mapped, because I only started a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, I did some research on in the school's collection and tried to find more of them and so on. All to do with the holy wells and the wart wells and so on. I won't go into that now, but I have a bit of a definition here as usual, And I mentioned St. Patrick kneeling everywhere and so on. And what I didn't mention, well, I kind of hinted at it earlier that they could have been bases for high crosses, but they could of course also have been bases for market crosses. And some of them we know that they were. And only the base survives and the cross is gone wherever. Cromwell might be to blame for some of the damage there, but we can't blame him for everything. Some may have served as baptismal fonts. If you go back to the hermits, the very early Christians in Ireland, a lot of the early saints were hermits and they really wanted to be by themselves, but people heard about their saintly deeds and they came along and they founded communities there and they joined Christianity and they had to be baptized, and maybe they just, rather than going and carving some elaborate baptismal font, maybe they just used something that was already associated with the saint. Maybe he used it as a cornerstone, but his power had gone into the stone because he used it, and they thought that this would justify using his discarded cornerstone as a baptismal font, and why not? It's all about power and magic, and I'm not trying to disrespect Christianity here, but it's all a little bit magic there involved. So the thing you do is, usually they're small enough. The rule usually is on OpenStreetMap, if it's smaller than 1 square meter, use a node. And most of them, I would think, are less than a square meter. So you just use a node and you add the tag historic equals Bullaun stone with an underscore. And you can be done with that. But of course, the database is only as good as the data you put into it. So you can add a lot more. And I haven't gone as deep as this table suggests with any of the Bullaun stones that I have mapped. I think I haven't really mapped that many. The name, that sometimes there might be a name on it. Don't just call it Bullaun stone, because that's what you're mapping there. You know, it's already has the tag Bullaun stone. There's no point. There's about 1,000 recorded by the National Monument Service. There's no point calling them all Bullaun stone if you have them categorized as a Bullaun stone. That's not how the name tag works. You can use the material if you have any idea about stone. I don't. Like, it basically all looks the same to me. If they were quernstones, there are certain materials that they can't be. Like, you wouldn't use limestone for a quernstone as far as I'm aware, but it's usually granite. But it could be sandstone or whatever stones are out there. I don't know. If you have taken a photograph of it, or even more than one, and it's uploaded to Wikimedia Commons, or if somebody else has uploaded a photo to Wikimedia Commons, you can add that key, Wikimedia_Commons. If there's an image somewhere else that you're allowed to use, you can use the image key. And you can also use a description if you want to describe it any further. Sometimes there's more than one depression in the stone. Or if sometimes there are crosses also carved next to it, or if you have watched the video about the Glún Pádraig on the Kells Road, there was a shamrock carved into it, which I only discovered for the video, just one of those coincidences. And I think there was some writing in it, which I wasn't quite sure what it read. And you can measure it if you have a measuring tape with you. I did have a measuring tape with me in Killamery, but I forgot to measure them. So you can add the width, length and depth, and you could also add the Bullaun diameter and the Bullaun depth. That is nano-tagging. You really don't have to do that. If it is on a heritage database like the National Monument Service, the Historic Environment Viewer, you can use the heritage key, and then it is usually heritage equals 2, which is a national monument or any recorded monument that you find on the Historic Environment Viewer. Heritage 1 is a World UNESCO site, which they don't tend to be, and I'm not quite sure if we have a level 3 in Ireland. If it was only of local relevance, I'm not sure where the database would be for that. If this specific Bullaun stone has a Wikidata or a Wikipedia article, very unlikely, but if they do, you can add the links to that. And if the stone is associated with a saint like St. Patrick or St. Bridget or St. Kieran or whoever, then you can also add subject:\Wikidata for the saint, or subject:\Wikipedia for the saint, or if there's some other historic event I can't remember why I put the historic event in there, but there must be a good reason for it. And if you have a 3D model, if you have done photogrammetry of it, or if you know somebody has done so, I'm doing that for some sites in Ireland, and there's also an account on Sketchfab which is called Archaeological Survey of Ireland, but I'm not sure if they're actually associated with the National Monument Service. But I think the National Monument Service might in the future also do that, because they're getting workshops on that. And I've done videos on photogrammetry if you want to check these out. It's very simple. All you need is a phone, relatively good light, and patience, because you have to take quite a few pictures. Then you can use the URL Sketchfab, and we will do that for the Killamery ones. And location, for some reason, some of them are small enough to be moved, so if some local, I don't know, Tidy Towns committee decides to move it for some reason, you might want to add a location so it's known where it's supposed to be, I suppose. What you can also use, which we've used for OM stones, is the key moved, where we know it has definitely been moved from its original location. If it's in a museum, for example, you know, it wasn't made in the museum. That wasn't its original location. I don't know if they have any in the National Museum in Dublin. They might. So that would get the key moved. We don't usually map a lot of stuff that's inside museums. I'm not quite sure why. I have mapped a few like OM stones, but the National Museum in Dublin would be full of notes if we started doing that. For certain things. I mean, there's certain things that we wouldn't map, like the dugout canoe. Well, we could. Actually, there are tags for that, and the high crosses and the shield and leggings, so we could do it, but I think it would get a little bit messy on the map. If they are holy wells, as I said, some of them are wart wells or other associated with other types of healing, or not associated with healing, but for some reason considered holy wells, even though they just collect rainwater. But if you go into the school's collection, you see descriptions of these Bullaun stones, and it will always say, miraculously, they never dry out. Well, guess what? It rains a lot in Ireland, so there's always plenty of rainwater, and there's also dew. And then we have a bit of a gallery there. Some I photographed myself. I think the one at Clonmacnoise. Yeah, and some others, which I found on Wikimedia, because thankfully other people have photographed them as well. So these are the tags you can use, but you don't have to. And now we're going to map those two in Killamery. Here we are on OpenStreetMap.org. I am logged in with my username, which you have to be to edit the map. And you see it is fairly well mapped. A former Protestant church here. And it's actually St. Nicholas's Church as well. And then the footpath going along here, the 1798 plaque, the information panel by Dukas, I think. The other style here, the ruin, and then the path that goes down here. I can't zoom in anymore, but the high cross is there, and the holy well. And this is all very wet. So Killamery really is a welly site. But I did come prepared for the last 2 times I went there. And I think it is close enough to the Tipperary border to have the fresher Bing imagery. Not that it really makes a difference, because you can't really see where they are. But the high cross, I think, is here. You can see that the shadow is quite long. It's quite a tall structure. And the Bullaun stones would be, I'll just adjust that here a little bit here, roughly. It doesn't have to be precise to the centimeter. So we'll start with this one here. We can also see that there's a tree stump mapped here, because there's a very impressive tree stump that I only added today to the map. So historic Bullaun stone, and there are enough maps that it comes up. I have to cheat and look. Material, I don't know. Stone. Do I have Wikimedia Commons? I'm not sure. Category Killamery. Monastic site. No, Oh, that is very negligent of me. Since I started doing the photogrammetry, I just keep forgetting to take regular pictures of things. Old school ones. Okay, so we can't use Wikimedia Commons description, width length heritage 2 because they're on the historic environment viewer. I won't add the number now, which you could of course do at the ref:/IE:/SMR, and then it should start with KK. Well, I might do that later. Wikidata, Wikipedia, they don't have their own and they're not associated with the saint as far as I know, so all I can do is add the URL Sketchfab. I'll show you here. This is my account on sketchfab.com. I added 3 for Killamery today, but the Bullaun stones I scanned the last time I was there. Here. So the first one, the northern one, if you will, is this one. If you remember, the hole went all the way through. There. That's it. And if you scroll down here and go on to share, it gives you a direct link or a short link, and you just copy that and go back to OpenStreetMap, and you can just type in Sketchfab, but the key is actually URL:/Sketchfab, and paste that. I'm a bit disappointed in myself that I can't really do much more. And the second one is just here. Point historic Bullaun stone and URL:/Sketchfab. Apparently you have to type Sketchfab to get it. And that's this one, which is miraculously always filled with water. Maybe that's why he thought it was a baptismal font. I don't know. So that's it from close up. And again, I go down onto share, copy that link, and paste that there. I mean, I could add source survey just to have more tags, I suppose. Survey :date. Today is the 23rd already of May. And unfortunately that's all I can do. Well, I could actually see if I got it on Mapillary. Oh, I was convinced I had taken the 360 camera the last time I went there. Not today. I know I didn't do it today because I thought I had done it already. Oh, that is so annoying. Don't want to go there again. Not so soon. Oh, there's one. Mapillary. And I get the link by clicking on my username there, right click, copy link, paste that, and then I just have to delete everything that isn't this number. Presume I didn't get the other one. But see, it's so lovely when the daffodils are there. No. I don't know, there should be arrows here where I'm clicking. Nope. Oh, I can be quite useless. Okay, I'll save that. Added Bullaun stones. Source survey. And upload. And I don't think they're rendered at all because, you know, with 29 occurrences now, 31. There's not really much point, but they're on the database now and they might turn up on specialized maps based on OpenStreetMap, of course. we'll run a check here. I'll just use this tag info template to run a query on overpass so I don't have to type. So surprise, surprise, they're all in Ireland, but as I said, they're not only to be found in Ireland. I think they're also called Bullaun in Germany, according to Wikipedia. I never knew the word, but maybe we have another word as well. But there's a good distribution there. I'm pretty sure I didn't add them all. Maybe I also just looked through Wikimedia for Bullaun stones. See, there's one that has a name, Keeler Stone, which is also a national monument apparently. And there's one that is a holy well. I mapped that actually. That's in Timoleague Friary, and it is, as far as I remember, it is a wart well. So that would be a name as well, in a way. But I remember that there was actually a sign above it saying wart well, so I guess it's okay to use that as a name. I also seem to have mapped it as a natural stone, because I presumed it wasn't man-made, as it's called on OpenStreetMap, but of course, politically correct, it would be human-made. There's one that's made of granite. There's one I found in the school's collection. And so on. So you see, I did use or ever mapped them. There's another Gloon Patrick. Sometimes it's spelled Cloon Patrick. Maybe that's some dialect. Some seem to be on the British War Office map as well. There's another St. Patrick one. Another Wardstone. And another one associated with St. Patrick. So there are quite a few. It might be that I think I actually looked for knee St. Patrick in the school's collection. And that's how I found a couple of the Gloon Patricks. And I didn't look for other body parts, and I think I didn't look for Gloon Brede. I can't remember now, it's some weeks ago. But there are still 29, there should be 31. And now there are 31, and you can see it's building up in Kilkenny as usual. But I hope you found that interesting, and maybe I have inspired you to put some more of them on the map, because I'm sure you know one or two in your area that might not be on the map yet. Chances are, with 1,000 on the Historic Environment Viewer and only 31 on OpenStreetMap, that you might know one or two that aren't mapped on OpenStreetMap yet. So hopefully you found that interesting, the excursion into folklore and all that. I'm fascinated by it because it shows that, it's not all just Irish. It's a European thing, and it's probably even a worldwide thing, because erosion in stone happens all over the place, and people have felt the need to find an explanation for how this weirdly shaped impression got into the stone. And I like those stories, even though I'm fairly sure that most of them are made up, but they're still fascinating stories, and they were great entertainment before Netflix and TikTok. Hope to see you again soon in another video. Gur míle maithagah agus slán go fóill.